Jon Snow, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Also, the objective frontrunner in White Walker kills. Daenerys might be the first of her name, but Jon Snow is actually the second of his name. You see, there was another famous Jon Snow of times past. A Jon Snow with some striking similarities. A Jon Snow who was famous for stopping more widespread devastation than anyone in Westeros could hope to accomplish. Let's jump to London, 1854, where tens of thousands of people were dying. This time, it was cholera, a disease that had people vomiting and defecating clear liquids until they died. There was a little confusion around disease at the time. We could treat some, but we weren't quite sure the exact cause. And Westeros was actually pretty similar to this. George R.R. Martin made his world more medically advanced than the real Middle Ages. Because, as it turns out, a land where everyone dies of disease at the age of 24 doesn't make for great storytelling. The Maesters and Wood Witches would have had some similar beliefs around this time as we did on Earth. They would have almost certainly believed in the miasma theory. According to miasma theory, disease wasn't spread person to person. Instead, it was the environment that made people sick. In particular, poisonous air. Corpses, worms, rotting flesh all created poisonous air. You could tell because it smelled bad. And if you breathed in this bad smell, this poisonous air, you got a disease. As a side note, this is the reason plague doctors wore those crazy bird masks, to protect their noses from those poisonous smells. To history's real-life Jon Snow, miasma didn't make sense. He believed in this radical new idea called germs, before germ theory was even a thing. And people didn't believe it. Germ theory just didn't make sense. Yeah, sure, John, tiny invisible animals are hiding in our poop. Then, when eating each other's poop, like you do, you get cholera. Okay, buddy. The disbelief was amplified because Jon Snow just wasn't the best person to hang out with. He was a vegan and probably didn't shut up about it. He didn't drink alcohol and preached against anybody who did. Which is pretty ironic. During the outbreak, the brewery wasn't touched at all because fermentation killed off the microbes. But if you think about it, Jon Snow of Westeros was also kind of a goody two-shoes. He had that same unfaltering honor that got Daddy killed.
But have you ever considered learning how to lie every now and then? Just a bit.
While everyone was dying around him, Jon Snow stuck to his morals and fought his own epidemic. So it was pretty lucky when he discovered the way to stop the outbreak in its tracks. Remove the source of the spread. European Jon Snow wanted to do the same thing. Remove the source of the outbreak. But to do that, he first needed to find the source, which he did by inventing epidemiology. While everyone else was chasing their tails looking for bad smells, he got to work. He first figured out who died, when, and where. He aggregated that data on a map. These deaths were concentrated around Broad Street, around a single water pump. A water pump that everybody thought had the best water in the area. In fact, the outlier deaths would travel to the Broad Street pump to get water, because the water didn't smell as bad as closer pumps. Even though germs are functionally invisible, The map was still enough to convince authorities to remove the pump handle, which, surprise, surprise, made everybody feel better. Today, Jon Snow is a hero whose influence has gone on to save billions of lives. He died at the age of 45, yet still, Snow's emergency procedures halted the next cholera outbreak in its tracks even 8 years after his death. And London never had another outbreak, ever again. Well, there you have it. If it felt like Game of Thrones was shoehorned in, it kind of was. In fact, Dr. Jon Snow was a bit more like Samwell Tarly than Jon Snow, but I don't regret a thing. I love this stuff, and I hope I made it interesting for you too. The next few episodes won't mention Game of Thrones outright, but they are indeed Game of Thrones related. I'll be talking about why blood heirs are so important to inheriting a kingdom, how the practice of wedding dowries came about,
and promised me the gold's weight in silver as a dowry. So I have a fat young bride.
why incest is looked down upon and why it results in birth defects. So subscribe if you want some real-life culture and history explained in a way that's easy to understand. Alright, see you in the next video.